all, welcome to the shop here. I'm Alex, the president of the Wisconsin Computer Club. Apologies in advance for the furnace, it's winter in Wisconsin. And today, next to me here, I have something you're probably familiar with if you're watching this stream here on the Joshua Turbo Twitch channel. This is the 1989 Turbografx 16, produced by Hudson Soft and NEC. The Turbografx is often kind of seen as this first major foray by NEC into the video game market. Not their last, but certainly their most substantial. And the Turbografx 16 and its successor, the Turbo Duo, are seen as sort of their swan song for gaming in America. There's a lot of reasons this thing didn't work out the way that they wanted it to, but interestingly, I don't think too many people realize that this was not NEC's first try at making a gaming system for North America. Today I would like to show you something that's a little bit unusual and a little bit transmogrified for our purposes, but I think it'll illustrate a little bit better why NEC was interested in taking Hudson's offer to manufacture and sell this system in America. And the furnace is finally turned off. This is the NEC Personal Computer PC6001. This is a Japanese microcomputer released in 1981, sold there as the PC6001 to capitalize on NEC's existing small personal computer market for the PC6000, and sold in North America as the NEC Trek. Trek is relatively hard to find these days, but the biggest difference between the two is the color scheme. This has kind of an orange keyboard for the Japanese market, and the North American version has gray keys. It also has the Japanese characters printed underneath the Latin characters, but the computers are basically the same otherwise. There were a couple different iterations of this computer sold, some that actually had a real keyboard and not the chiclet style keys. I don't think you'd want to type on this forever. But by and large, computers are the same. And for our applications here, we just want to explore how NEC sort of got into gaming. This is a great place to start. While all computers, all kind of 8-bit era computers, are inherently able to game to some degree, the graphical capability and the 3.5 roughly megahertz Zilog Z80 compatible processor that NEC had reverse engineered for this machine really did allow this to play some more complicated games. There are some conversions from some arcade ports. They released some games themselves on cartridges, which again are kind of hard to find, but this computer can also load things off a cassette, or it did have a disk drive adapter. There are a lot of things that this computer can do that are fairly advanced for the time frame. I would say, given the amount of RAM it has 16 kilobytes, it's roughly equitable in terms of graphics and sound capabilities to something like the Commodore VIC-20, which, while the VIC-20 is a much lighter, smaller machine with a few fewer capabilities in some places, but quite a few more in others. We'll explore that in a minute here. But for the time frame and for the cost, this was an excellent computer, and this thing really did kind of rock the house in Japan. This thing was released and sold for many years. There were a number of different iterations. They ultimately ramped up the memory all the way up to 64 kilobytes, and they were sold really, really well in Japan. And NEC saw an opportunity to break into the US market at the time, really dominated by the Apple II on kind of the high end for the expensive stuff, and then you had something like, say, the VIC-20, or later you had kind of your Timex Sinclair, little small end things for your low end market. But of course, a lot of the people really were looking for computers that they could either write on or do business applications on, or, you know, for the kids, we wanted to game. This was a good compromise machine. So I'm going to take it around the back. We're just going to take a look at the ports. I'm not going to go into great detail on all the things this thing can do, but I'll just take you around the back here. So we have, it has a 120 volt power supply here. This actually is compatible with the US power supply, which is fabulous. So even though it's Japanese, it does run. I have translated these out with some markers here. So we have a reset switch, our printer port, we have a cassette port here, an audio jack, which is unusual on a system like this. It has an RF modulator and a composite video out. And you could get a card in here to run RS-232 serial, which would have been a big deal back then. And this is your, I believe that's your contrast controller for the actual video system here, but I will check that here in a minute. My sticker has fallen off. All in all, a very interesting little computer here, and let's fire it up. Let's see what it looks like. Hello all, and we have the NEC PC6001 here, hooked up to the green screen Apple monitor. Power it up there, powers right up like so. It does have some limited color in things like games and things, which, you know, it works about the same as kind of the era, but its default screen is green like this, and that is kind of how it displays, so I think it looks pretty good on this monitor here. The first thing it's going to ask when you first power it up is it's going to ask how many pages. And this is a holdover from the kind of the Z80 era of programs. A lot of times you would have to reserve memory in them. So like the original Tandy Radio Shack TRS-80, the original Trash 80, had a Z80 based processor, and it would ask you, hey, how much memory do you want to reserve for your programs so that I don't chew it all up in operating systems or subroutines or something. A lot of computers got away from this pretty quickly as soon as more powerful or capable processors came up, but a lot of software still was expecting certain blocks of memory to be reserved just for them, or they wouldn't run properly. So this is going to ask you, hey, do I need to reserve any memory for you here? How many pages of memory do you want saved? I don't know how big a page is in this case, but I'm just going to hit enter, so we're all good to go. And it loads right up. N60 Basic. This is an NEC licensed version of Microsoft Basic, registered in 1981, and it has 7,100 bytes of free memory. So we have 7,100 bytes to play with. Unfortunately, this is kind of where the tour ends for now. We do have a method we're working on to actually load software onto this thing, hopefully so we can take it to shows. But at this stage of the game, this is about as far as I can get it without any software to load on it. Getting cartridges is kind of hard for something of this era, and loading software into it requires a specialized cable, which is on order, but it's going to take 1,000 years to get here from Europe. It has been delayed a couple times already. So I am going to show you a couple things here. It has these numbered things here on the bottom here. These actually correspond to the function keys. You have your 5 function keys here. So we can go to color. I'm going to hit 1. And it's going to go, okay. It doesn't actually do anything on the screen, so I'm probably not hitting the right buttons here. This is C load, so that's cassette load. So here it's going to ask me for a location. So I'm going to type in, what am I going to type in here? Yeah, cool. And the keyboard layout is a little bit different than ours. There it is. And let's see. And it's probably going to look for cool on a cassette tape somewhere that doesn't actually exist. So we're going to power that down here and load it back up again. Thankfully, it's that easy. So go to 1. And it's going to say, I don't know what you're talking about there. Hello, list. And it's like, okay, because we don't have any programs loaded. So otherwise, that would list your program. So you could, you know, if you had a basic program plugged in here, you'd be good to go that way. And F5 would be your run. Again, it just says okay, because there's not actually any programs loaded here. But to run programs on this system, unlike even on a Commodore machine where you'd have to type in a bunch of commands to get it to start, in this case, you would just hit, you know, if you had your cassette in, you'd hit F2 to C load, it would load it automatically, or it'd load off whatever you needed to punch in, and you just hit run. Or if you have a cartridge in, you just hit run, and away it goes, which is pretty advanced for 1981. I mean, granted, other computers could do it, but for something kind of this era, to have this many features kind of built in right off the bat, with keys dedicated to it is kind of cool. So anyway, so it's got a clear key, and I think that's about the breadth of all the cool things that I can show off with this particular computer at this point in time. But I will, of course, revisit this one when we actually have software for it, which I'm hoping will be soon. Knowing my luck, the thing will probably turn up in the mail tomorrow. But anyway, that about does it for the NEC PC6001. So a cool little machine, a glimpse at kind of NEC's early efforts to break into the American computer market and gaming in general. I do think that even though the NEC Trek was a failure here in the US market, they did sell enough of them, and they did get a feel for the market that they knew there was money in this, in games or kind of light computer systems like this. And even though NEC remained in the PC industry, they continued to make PC clones for the most part through the 80s and even into the 90s. I think it was their taste with the Trek that really opened them up to Hudson's offer. So when Hudson said, hey, let's make the Turbografx, I think this is what gave them the idea that this could be profitable. This could be something more. So my 2 cents on it, but I don't think too many people realize that NEC had a a video game capable machine quite a bit earlier than the Turbografx. Thank you all so very much for watching. This has been kind of an interesting look at NEC and some of their other forays into the gaming world that predate the Turbografx 16, which is, of course, a machine and all of its variants that deserve more looks in the future. So hopefully you like this. If you've enjoyed this, definitely watch the stream. There'll be more stuff like this and a lot more stuff about this thing. Oh my gosh, there will be so much more about this thing on this particular channel. So stay tuned, stay stubbed. Stay followed. I would assume if you're subbed, you're probably following. Maybe not. I don't know. You can do what you want. It's America. Thank you again so much for watching. Have a tremendous night.